Welcome to the Nightclub, guys. It's your host, the Night Wrencher. Now today, it's been a long time coming, but I'm going to start building the bumper that comes out, and it's going to cover up around here. I don't know how far I'm going to get today. It's already pretty late in the day. I just got home from work. But here's the plan, basically. On these Dodge trucks, these 3 holes hold your original bumper. What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take some 1/4-inch plate steel and make 2 pieces of steel that come out from here and then go all the way up to out here so you guys can get a general idea, and then run a 2-inch piece of steel across, heavy gauge square tube, and then after that I'm going to have sheet metal covering over here, and after which I'm going to go ahead and kind of origami my sheet metal around that and then weld that together. I'm also going to install a plate on the 2x2 that comes across this way, and that's going to give me somewhere to mount my winch. So a lot's going to go on here. I might go ahead and drill these out one size bigger so I can run the 5/8 bolts, but I'm going to start cutting up the plates. This is a piece of plate steel that I'm going to be using. As you can see, it's pretty thick. This is what I'm going to be using for the brackets. I went ahead and marked, split this in half, and then went ahead and cut them here so they're both the same. The general idea for each of these is going to be that you got your 3 bolts here somewhere, right? And then the frame's gonna end somewhere around here, and then somewhere around here I'm gonna put the 2x2. I'm gonna notch this to place the 2x2 in between here and here. And then I'm going to have a hole here so I can hook things onto, and then probably going to decorate it a little bit. Alright, so I've got one plate ready to go. Actually, I got both of them already all cut up. And I went ahead and I chamfered the edge of this so I wouldn't cut myself. And then the other side is laser or plasma cut. Both corners are identical because of the way they cut them, so the only thing that changes are the cuts that I made, but those are going to be facing down and forward, so they're not going to bother me in my measurements. So this thing's going to end up right here. I'm going to have it sit right here on the corner of the bracket, and then this thing's going to sit right here. I'm going to go ahead and mark my bolts of where they're going to go right there, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so I've got both plates here. I've already marked it right and left so I don't get lost and I don't mix them around, because since I did the measurements when the plates were already on them, everything from here on forward is going to be its own individual side, and slight changes in the frame will also translate to these plates. As you can see, the holes aren't exactly the same because they're not exactly the same as where they are installed on the frame. So what I've got here is I went ahead and I traced out a piece of 2x2. This is thin gauge, but because it's tube, the outside diameter is the same. When we use a heavy gauge, it'll be the exact same thing. So I went ahead and I traced it out using the mark that I got off the frame, and then this is the end result because it's a 2x2. Same thing for here, off the frame I got that mark, and then from here I began forward, and because it's a 2x2 tube I could go ahead and trace both sides. I'm going to make it a little bit oversized so that way when I put it on the truck I have a little bit of movement up and down just to get it square along the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these squares out and go from there. Okay, so I've got 1 bolt in. I haven't drawn up the other 2 bolts because I do want to square it up first. I've already got both plates good to go. So now basically what I've got to do now, I've got to go ahead and I'm going to measure off the frame, off the edge of the frame, where the beginning of my 2x2 is going to go. So it's probably going to go somewhere around here. And I just got to make sure that it's in the same location in comparison to the frame, ignoring the body, because the body will tweak a little bit as I take care of all the panel gaps. So in the meantime, I do need it square up into the frame, and if I need to adjust it, I can go ahead and adjust it at a later time, which is why I'm only putting 1 bolt. I have the plates resting up against the frame on the bottom, so that way if it sags, or actually it's already sagging to the point where it's touching the frame, so it's actually got more support now than it would if it was just floating in place both sides are already touching. I made sure to sag these down, so when I go ahead and I mark up the 2x2 and I square it up against the frame, I'm already going to have a little bit of room to go ahead and just drill out the 2 new holes. Alright, so I went ahead and I finished notching it out. It's already got the 2 inches that I need, 2x2 on each side. I've got, I think it's either a 14 gauge or a 12 gauge piece of square tubing, and I more or less have the width. I'm just going to go ahead and figure out where the center is, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim it. This thing's going to go up right around, figure the body line is going to be the edge, and then this thing's going to have a 45 right here, because the sheet metal for the bumper is going to come this way. It's going to follow the 45, and then it's going to make a turn out this way, so it's actually as wide or parallel to the tire. So it's going to go straight 45, it's going to go straight 45, and it's going to bend this way. The sheet metal is also going to come up beyond this and then bend at a 45 this way, so you won't actually be able to see this. So it's actually going to come up to probably right around right here. So sheet metal is going to come up here, and it's going to come up probably here, probably a little bit more than 45 degrees, so I get a nice curve between here to here, and then this will go straight down. And then I'm figuring this is going to have another 45 coming out this way, but I'm going to go ahead and set up this 2x2, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so we're in day 2 today. I'm going to be breaking the tack welds that I installed on this front bumper. I'm going to be making a cut for another piece of 2x2 measured out to the same size as the frame, and I'm actually going to be placing it below this piece of 2x2, and then after that I'm going to go ahead and remove the bumper and then weld all of that together, come back and then reinstall everything. One other thing, I'm going to drill out the last 2 holes on each side, so I can install the last 4 bolts. It's not just being held on by just 1 bolt on each side. It's going to have all 3. If I need to upsize to the next size bolt, or at least the one in the far back, I will. But if it looks good, I'm probably just going to leave it alone and use the same 3 stock bolts. After that, I'm going to go ahead and start looking for my sheet metal and start piecing out the parts that I'm going to need. Okay, I finished setting up the sheet metal. This is only one part of the sheet metal. I still need the 2 sides of the sheet metal, but this is I think it's like 1 foot long, and I did this bend on it. It's just a little budget bend. What you do to bend, this is I think 16 gauge plate steel, and what you do is basically you just take your grinder and you just kind of trace a line where you're going to want to make the bend. So basically you just do this with the grinder. You just cut your line all the way through, and then you just go and just bend it up. The deeper you make it, the easier it is to bend it. This is decorative, so there's no actual function in this. I might go ahead and just make some tacks here and there, just so in case we do pull on it, which I don't think so. Just be careful not to mess up like I did. It would have been pretty straight, except I did end up going crooked. So whatever line you make, that's the line that's going to happen with your grinder. I've already traced out the holes for mounting the cover onto my bumper, and then I've cut out the holes for the hooks. This is all 3 bolts. I was able to use OEM bolts, 3 on each side, and then I've got the 2x2 like I said earlier. This is actually 3/8 plate, and then I've got a 2x2 stacked onto a 2x2, and then I have this 1/4 inch 3/8 plate. This is gonna have a 2x2 connecting from here out to that way. So I'm gonna run some bolts to probably here, and then here. It's actually gonna be welded all 4 sides. And what this is gonna do, it's not only is it gonna support the center of my bumper for when I'm using the winch, but it's also going to allow me to stick it's gonna act like a receiver, and I'm gonna be able to hook up any kind of 2-inch adapter that I need to up in the front. So that pretty much covers what I'm doing today. It's going to take me a little bit more time to finish it all up, but as I get there, I'm going to update probably 1 more video, and I'll show you guys what I'm up to on the next time. So I'll see you guys later. Night Wrencher, out.